Troopers and grinders, we here at the Skate Tank Podcast just want to thank you for being the baddest ones here, man. Nobody wants you guys. Nobody wants us on this podcast. I was here and I kicked his ass, and now nobody wants me. We're the king of this shit, man. I am your host, Hank the Tank, and on my left is the Idaho Skatesman. We're here to cover Knucklemania, fighting to survive. Pump it up, and among other great MMA news. And what a weekend it was. Once again, we had a UFC card that looked like absolute crap on paper, and then ended up being quite the spectacle in the end. And Alex Perez, the canceled fight merchant, ends up saving the day from Nicolau. So what a night of fights, especially on Saturday. A lot to talk about. What do you?
It was certainly an eventful weekend in combat sports. Some cards delivered, some didn't, and I think one championship continues to just always guarantee a good show.
Guarantee some action. Well, they got some of the best Muay Thai in the world, so you're tuning in to watch that every time.
Yes, sir. So let's get right into it, my man. Firstly, we had one championship, one fight night, 60, sure. And of course they opened the card with a submission grappling bout, which I definitely skipped watching.
Where was Ruotolo? Where's Mikey?
He'll be in America in September. But
let's get these people on his pizza diet.
So yeah, they had a quick first round submission in the grappling match, which was interesting. I don't understand the submission grappling side of one championship, me personally. Maybe they're just trying to get some more people to grapple Danielle Kelly.
But part of it is they want people who are wrestling fans of just Roman Olympic style wrestling to get into it. I don't know if there's an audience there, especially in Eastern promotion.
You then had Junior Fairtex taking on Masami Machida. Just a pretty competitive, Muay Thai bout. Not much to say.
Is she in the Fairtex family?
Well, once you like start training at a gym in Thailand, you then take their last name as just kind of as your fight name. Nice. So yeah, interesting there.
They got a good gym, really good gym, and hell of good athletes too.
So this says you then had Petman Cole taking on Thomas Van Ninjatin. I don't know what the fuck that is, but hey, what's up, A? It says decision straight right.
All right.
Which is really interesting. This fight ended in a knockout. Petman Cole.
Decision straight right?
Yeah, I don't know why it says that, but yeah, this fight definitely ended in a knockout. What's going on, Jay? Rush Hour.
They knocked him right. They knocked him right straight into a decision.
Yeah, I don't know why it says that, but just tapology fuckery mainly. Not much to say. Thomas never really was in this one, and it ended pretty early.
I picked this one as well. He went to a good academy, it seemed.
You did pick Thomas?
I didn't know. I picked the academy, man.
Oh, gotcha. We then had a Japanese getting a decision win over Surnsugnoi. Again, these names are not my forte, so forgive me.
Not your forte. You just got to be careful once they start capitalizing certain letters,
right?
Otherwise, you might understand.
Surnsugnoi FA Group is a pretty. I mean, FA Group is a pretty established, Muay Thai name. But the Japanese fighter ended up getting the decision win over the man from FA Group. I mean,
ask guys. FAG.
It was a pretty competitive fight, but Ogasawara. I don't know. Fuck.
Agasawa.
Isaku. The Japanese guy ended up taking it pretty handily.
Nice. Revenge.
And what's up, Pulse? And A makes a good point. At first we were pretty much like thinking Japanese people were here to just take L's. But yeah, they've been showing up more and more, and the talent's being developed out of there. So it's good to see Japanese people finally getting the dubs.
Yeah, and probably just increasing their skills when it comes to wrestling and in striking. I'm just noticing that sets of guys in the UFC that are more well-rounded. So I think.
Speaking of that, our next fight was Kaito Oda versus Cooper Royal, a man named Cooper Royal. The classic Japan versus Australia bout.
This is where my picks fall apart.
Okay, you had Cooper?
Yeah.
Okay, so
FA group.
So unfortunately, this fight was pretty lame. Kaito just kind of Japanese blanketed Cooper to a decision win. Cooper never figured out how to stop the takedown, not get on the bottom and stay there. He was pretty much stuck like glue on the bottom the entire time. Pretty boring win for Kaito, but good to see a Japanese guy actually grappling good. That's what you want to see, I guess. So we then had the Thai versus the Moroccan.
Why did I pick Moroccan? Why?
Pretty brawly fight. Eventually, the Thai ended up kind of wearing him down and just getting him with that left hook. And I remember this one. This was pretty unexpected because the Moroccan threw a kick, and then as he kicked, the Thai guy kind of timed him with a left hook, and he just kind of put him down, and he was out. He was out, and it was a pretty vicious knockout. But the blow wasn't a super hard one. It was kind of interesting that he just kind of felt. I think it's probably the force from him kicking, and then the fall that really put him out, and he wasn't able to beat the count. But
well, the Thai guys have good timing, so
100%.
Wait, so he Fusro dawed him or Sparta kicked him to death?
No.
He got beaten?
No, as the Moroccan went in for a kick, he timed it with a punch, and then it put him out. So
wow,
interesting.
Nice. Johnny Walker style.
Yeah. I don't remember this guy's name. It was Dang Sang something versus Sang Sada.
My boy Tarchang.
He got mauled really bad and just put out in the first round. Not much really to say about that one. Same with this next one with the Fairtex fighter.
Thank you, Fairtex.
And there was a lot of quick knockouts on this fight, on this card. So it was a really good card.
Fairtex keeps saving my butt.
So, nice. Yeah, always good to bet on the Fairtex guys. We then had Cal Klai versus Suwatlek. Cal Klai is somebody I really like. He's really, really tiny, which is saying something in Muay Thai. He's a really undersized fighter. He's always the shortest guy. And man, he just was on this guy like fucking stink on rice from the opening bell. And he put him down once. And he just ended up coming forward and just throwing wild hooks. And he put him down a second time, and Suwatlek was not able to beat the count. We then had Song Fang Kong of FA Group. FA Group went 1-on-1 on this card.
Yeah, the one time I bet against an FA Group, that's when they win.
And yeah, just ended up kind of just doing more of the same, just kind of mauling this guy, put him out. We then had a man named Focus fighting a man named Comeback in a fight that I thought that, Focus would be focused early on, take over. And then
the Comeback guy would come back at some point.
I thought he was going to come back, as his name suggested, but he did not come back. He got one of the most vicious body kicks I've seen in a long time. Folded him up instantly, and he was just not able to beat the count.
Yeah. Well, he'll bounce back from it, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's going to come back. We all know this.
Yeah.
we then had Sranlek and his opponent. I don't remember his name right now.
The chef didn't cook this time.
The chef. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Not to be confused with the American dude, Luke, the chef, who looks like Asher Roth, as my friend Jay Smooth would say. And Sranlek and his opponent had a fucking fantastic fight. I actually went back and watched it just before we started the stream, and he was taking over early, and he knocked down his opponent pretty early on, and then it seemed like the other guy was coming back, and he was doing really well until about the end of the third round, which Sranlek just kind of took over.
Yeah,
and it was a fantastic fight. And again, these cards are just always just so fucking good, man. It sucks that they're on Friday mornings, man. That's really the only crime here.
Well, it's Muay Thai, man. It's a more exciting version of boxing. It's
exactly
what everybody enjoys about the action of UFC without the crotch sniffing.
Right. And then so we're going to briefly go over the LFA fights. So Tank had some picks on there he wants to go over.
Well, and there were a few. Some of them fizzled out like soda, but other ones that I was considering won their fights. So let's look at a few. Down we go. There was a guy named Harris Talon Zeke on the LFA card. He was a really good grappler, and he was going against a freaking 4-5 guy, all right? So it made sense that I would pick against the 4-5 guy, against the guy who's just been grabbing all his opponents, dunking them on their heads, and submitting them. Unfortunately, I don't know why it got fizzled out. I didn't see any sort of weight miss, but for one reason or another, it didn't work out. Another one that I was considering was a guy named Michael Blockus. As soon as I saw his headgear, I was like, that's the guy. They always win a few fights, and then they go against a striker. At two brute. And so I just thought, well, it's his second fight, so he should do well. This guy's a 3-3 guy. They're obviously setting him up for failure. And that's exactly what happened. And cool enough, the wrestler KO'd him via ground and pound, which I always like to see in an Olympic wrestler, for him to have some striking in his game as well and know how to finish a fight and not just be a Kamzat and then, wear your arms out and then, oh, brother, I don't know how to strike, brother. Don't hit me, please, Usman. So he did really well. And,
the block
I typed in the City Life chat that Chael Sonnen saw the result and said that he had to use the bathroom. Afterwards.
So the Blocketh match, it seemed like it was stopped a little early. The guy was still intelligently defending and the ref stopped it. I mean, I'm not here to say it was a robbery or anything like that or it was fixed, but I think if it would have kept going on, he would have definitely gotten pounded out even worse. So
yeah,
I don't really care about fights being stopped a little early on regional shows, but nonetheless, good win for Mr. Blockus.
He's not a blockhead, at least not yet. And with Activate A, we're going to mention one of my locks for the Ryzen card afterwards. So hang tight. Hold on to your butt. We're going to get to it. And then Mitchell McKee had a dominant win.
And that was the main event.
And he was like a 5-1 favorite. 95% of people picked him. And for good reason, because he was just piecing him up on the feet and dominating him on the ground. He just outclassed him, basically, and didn't take hardly any damage. So,
and I'll say this LFA card was really good until the last 2 or 3 fights. Kind of just came to a grinding halt. And
again, when you have one bad fight, it's more likely than not that the rest are going to try to follow suit and keep that momentum, because now you're waiting around a little bit more backstage. You're not, oh God, this fight's going on forever. Hey, if they can survive and not get knocked out, maybe I will. So maybe I'll keep this at a slow pace. I think it just wears people out just even watching it. But when you have fast finishes, it's like, ooh, I want to get in there next. Ooh,
right.
I want to finish. So
yeah, and so apparently there's a mystery fighter for the Ryzen card tonight in a bare knuckle match. I have no idea. And there's a guy affiliated with Isha. He's always in Isha's streams. The We Are Ryzen podcast. He probably would know more about that, but I think they're keeping it a pretty tight knit secret. And as in regards to this one, no, nobody's shoulder popped out on the LFA card amazingly. But we'll get to that. We'll get to some of the.
How could you say that this was a good card skate if nobody's shoulder popped out during
True.
a fight?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Much like Devin Haney versus Lomachenko. I guess I just don't know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, his shoulder didn't pop out. His shoulder didn't.
But we're gonna go over Glory now, unless Tank has anything else to say in regards to the LFA card.
I just want to say a big thank you to LFA in general for putting on very consistently good fight cards. Because I remember the one that came before, there was like a big title upset, and then my guy won, Vinicius Oliveira. No, it wasn't Vinicius. It was Michael Oliveira in like dominant fashion in a great fight. Finished it round 3 knockout. Great submissions, hammer fists. There were just guys that were doing all sorts of shit on every single fight. So I got to say, LFA might be one of the most exciting MMA promotions in the whole world.
Yeah, no, and when I started watching Rush Hour, Jay's channel, shout out to Rush Hour, by the way. When I started watching, like, LFA was great. And then Dana White's Contender Series picked up steam, and it seemed like every LFA card was just terrible after that. So I'll say, man, like, they've definitely been picking it up and just putting on really good shows consistently. So, yeah, you're right. Shout out to LFA.
Mm-hmm.
We're then going to go over the Glory card of the weekend. I'd like to start with Bobo Sacco. Very interesting name.
Now we're getting to the good stuff.
Yeah, so Bobo Sacco, in 55 seconds of the first round, knocked out this guy from Spain.
Sweet.
Oh, my God. This was
definitely felt that one secondhand.
This was such a brutal KO, man. Like, this guy was seizing up on the ground. And it was interesting because David Mija was 28 and Bobo Sacco was 35. And gosh, he just put this guy out so viciously, man. What can be said, you know?
Did he pull a Bryce Mitchell?
It wasn't as bad as that, but it was pretty fucking bad, man. I'm going to skip over the Abdel Kahalik fight. It wasn't super eventful. Yeah, as Jay says, rip Mija, because that was bad, man. I hope that guy recovers. Yeah. He was definitely carted off and never to be seen from again. But yeah, the Abdel Kahalik fight versus Benzaquin was pretty uneventful. Abdel Kahalik just kind of won a pretty handily decision. We then had Pascal Torre versus Mohamed Amin, which Amin was, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, I think he was a big favorite and kind of the guy touted as the guy that would win. He ended up losing a split decision, which was kind of interesting.
What rounds was he winning?
I'm not sure, honestly. I don't really remember this one too much, but I just know it was a pretty big upset. We then had Soufiane Leduni.
Oh yeah,
versus Vladimir Todd. And Leduni is a guy who he's like a pasty white dude who I've seen fight, and he's never interesting. So of course they put him up against Rico in the oh, here we go. He says it was a French fried robbery. Yeah, so I guess it was a pretty controversial one that Pascal Torre ended up winning, and they wanted to get the French fighters some dubs, and that's a testament to this fight, because Leduni fought Rico in the last Glory card with a heavyweight Grand Prix, and just a listless, lifeless performance. Of course, he fought Rico, and so they wanted him to bounce back really quick and be on this France card, and very, very quick. Oh yeah, the first punch that Vladimir threw. He threw it like a crazy wild hook and ended up dislocating his shoulder.
TJ would be proud.
And it's funny because Todd Grisham, their longtime announcer, said that he's never seen this happen before. And which is hilarious because this happened in a Badr Hari fight against Rico Verhoeven.
You know what Leduni is going to say after this? I think this fight proves that I deserve the title shot.
No, he actually called out this guy Cookie, who's an okay fighter, an up and down fighter in Glory, and I think he gets cooked by whoever he fights next, unless it's in France. Pretty safe to say.
On the Barbie.
And we then had Yusuf versus Stanislav.
I'm loving it.
Stanislav is a Ukrainian fighter. And really interesting that because I believe that Yusuf is from Morocco, and he was fighting a guy in Stanislav who was coached by Mike, the famous Mike's gym in Morocco. So it was kind of interesting to see that Mike was coaching Ukrainian, I guess. Early or late into the second round, actually at the very end of the second round, you had a really weird scenario, a sequence where they were kind of exchanging, and then there was kind of a slip / takedown from Yusuf, and that's what ended up dislocating Stanislav's shoulder. So we then had much deliberation. Like, there was a very long break. They were debating on whether or not Yusuf would be disqualified for the trip or not. You then had Yusuf jump over the ropes and talk to Mike, and he was like, "Mike, I respect you. I love you." And Mike's like, "Yeah, well, why'd you fucking trip it, man? They might disqualify you. You can't trip. This isn't Muay Thai, Yeah. He was pretty pissed off, but
it's footwork. It's footwork.
Yeah, exactly. They ended up giving him the TKO win, and then 2 shoulder dislocations.
All I know is that the chiropractors are making a bunch of money right now.
Mm-hmm. If you're a French chiropractor, you're raking in the cash.
Yeah.
And what a weird sequence there.
Yeah. I told you about momentum. The momentum kept going in the
exactly. Yeah. Mike was like, "What the fuck, man? What was that shit?" And then they ended up kind of just embracing, and everything was all good. But yeah, what a weird way to end a fight. And
I can guarantee you that while Lorenzo Hunt and Todd Duffy were training for their fights, they were watching the Glory pay-per-view, and they were like, "Sucks to be you guys." Oh man, Glory, man, their style of kickboxing gets them.
We then had probably my new favorite kickboxer, Bahram Rajabzadi.
Nice.
The Golden Wolf fighting a guy, Kevin Umar.
Boy.
Yeah, the Golden Wolf, man. This fucking guy is one to watch. You should watch every single one of this guy's fights, man. He is he's an undersized heavyweight. He fought in the heavyweight Grand Prix, and he ended up losing a very close decision to Levi Reitgers, I believe. But he fucking mauled this guy from pillar to post, dropped him in the first round, just stayed on him. Second round ends, and then 30 seconds into the third, he just levels him with a vicious hook that just floored him. And the Golden Wolf is a guy to watch, man. If you're into kickboxing or not, watch the Golden Wolf, man. This is the guy to watch for sure. Mm-hmm. He's got next in Glory, and I think he'll be a champ soon.
Yeah. Looks like he has the genetics and lifeblood of Edmund Shabazian and Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah. No, that's a really good comparison, actually. He's built like a tank, and he has a lot of power, and not the most technical guy, but geez, man, this guy, he's coming for the belt, man, in Glory. I hope they keep pushing him. We then had a big upset from Chico Quasi against Andy Semelier. So Andy is a young guy. They're both young guys, but Andy kind of had some pretty listless performances in his title since winning the title, and kind of fought some older guys. I think he had a rematch with one guy in a title defense as well. But Chico and some of the people in the Rush Hour chat were pretty hip to this, but Chico was on this guy from opening bell. And it was the punches of Chico that really just were overwhelming for Andy. And
he was not Andy's Chico for this one.
Right. And Andy just ended up getting knocked out bad. I think it was the 3 knockdown rule that, it says it right there, that ended up putting him out. And we got a new champion in the welterweight division of Glory, which is always exciting. So
yeah. It's always nice to see a good upset every once in a while.
Yeah, and so
sport from being stale.
And yeah, like just like Jay says, some people called it, and it was a big surprise for sure, to me too, because I thought Andy was going to go on a run, but in hindsight, he was probably due for a loss here. So good win for Chico.
And Glory was having shoulder injuries before it was cool.
And shout out to Denial for calling that too. He was calling it like months ago, before the fight even got booked and anyone even knew about it. So
nice.
The mystical Denial comes in again.
You call me Mystic Denial because I predict these teams.
But honestly though, like this card was not a good showcase for Glory, in my opinion.
Yikes. Yeah, it seems like the promotion is in trouble from every person that I've talked to.
Yeah, and be sure to check out Rush Hour's video on the State of Glory, edited by yours truly. Glory is a sinking ship, man. I don't know how much longer they'll be around for, and it certainly is not looking good for them, especially with cards like this that are just mid-tier at best and have shoulder injuries and just overall fuckery going on.
At this point, they need to appeal to Alex Pereira to move up to heavyweight in kickboxing. If they won't let him do it in the UFC, let him do it in kickboxing and bring him back.
I used to watch Alex Pereira's fights in Glory, and Jay and I both were like, after he lost to Artem Vahikov in the rematch, we both were like, dude, would love to see Alex fight Rico. But in hindsight, like, I don't think that they would make that fight, because I think that's too dangerous of a fight for Rico. As we all know, Rico is now on the board of directors of matchmaking for Glory, which is definitely a conflict of interest, and I think they're just protecting him.
Oh boy, it looks like they've gone from kickboxing to boxing. They're moving
right
part of it.
Yeah, and like D says, it's like they're just bringing in anybody to fight their champions, and they even did a whole season of House of Glory, which is like a tough ripoff, and the guy ended up fighting their champion. I'm having a hard time remembering his name, but yeah, he just got obliterated. And so, yeah, they're just having a hard time finding new talent, which is just strange to me. And building up stars, too. They're having trouble with that.
I'll give them a hand. If they need any tomato cans, I've got some in the cupboard. So, I can send
that's
them.
what it seems like they're getting. I mean, guys like Laduni getting weird opponents to just kind of flop and blow out their shoulders in the first round. And yeah, as Jace, Toddy, that's the guy's name.
Pull a tough.
Right. Yeah, it was just so weird for Glory to not be able to build up stars, man, because they put so much investment into Rico and like calling up old names. It's just strange, the matchmaking from Glory these days.
Just seems that a lot of these promotions are trying to come up with tried and true concepts that more successful programming has done, whether it was tough or it was Trump's The Apprentice, a Chatri had to have. I'm a two-star in business.
Now he's making Musametti cry, and
I need to bleed some more money, Mikey. You need to give me my pasta sauce so I can bleed it out. Yeah, it's not looking good. Like every single fight promotion that I've seen do some sort of spin-off of their original programming backfires horribly.
Totally.
Stick to what you do and perfect it. That's my opinion.
Denial says he bets Rico demanded drug testing on Reem. The Netherlands is very strict on drug testing. So there's that. But I mean, obviously when you take one look at Rico Verhoeven, man, you can tell this guy is just juiced up to the gills.
He doesn't skip gym day.
I guess not, but yeah, chicken and rice, right? But they're going to move over to DAZN, and then we'll talk some UFC, and then end it with some Bkfc.
He's got the Rock's diet.
We had former Ryan Garcia victim Oscar Duarte fighting Jojo Diaz. So Jojo Diaz is just that guy that kind of they bring in. The classic play from boxing. Like here's a guy who's lost to some bigger names. Let's give him a guy we want to win and see how he does.
Credibility, star power, blah blah blah.
So Joseph Diaz, I think his last fight, it probably wasn't his last fight, but a recent fight of his was losing to Devin Haney before Devin fought Loma. So yeah, Oscar, and not much can really be said about this fight. Jojo Diaz is kind of an undersized junior welterweight, super lightweight, whatever you want to call it. And I think this is his first fight at the weight class, and he just kind of got overwhelmed. And by the 9th round, he got TKO'd out of there. The ref mercifully stopped it, and it was a good win for Oscar Duarte. So I'm interested to see what he does next.
Better than Sergey's bounce back win. So more
right,
impressive.
He's a good puncher, and yeah, we'll see. Oh, by the way, what's up, CST? Thank you for hopping in, man. Appreciate you. And yeah, so
go through the highlights of these boxing cards. Not go through every single one. How many fights on this card?
There was quite a few. I believe there was like at least 10 or more.
Yeah.
Let's take a look. Actually,
if you see the good ones, let me know those.
Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rael Curiel is a prospect to watch for sure. He won some weird trinket belt, the NABF welterweight title.
Hey, he got some good body shots to win it. I appreciate that. Anyone who's got good body shots has good fight IQ.
We're then going to move to Virgil Ortiz versus Thomas Delorme. So Thomas Delorme has losses to Terrence Crawford. Gosh, man, I have to go look through, but he's just another one of those guys that they just bring in to take L's over their up-and-coming fighter. And I'm super happy that Virgil Ortiz is double booked. It was announced earlier this week that he's going to fight Tim Tszyu on an upcoming card. Yeah, so like I'm glad Virgil's finally going to like fight somebody of note. Because this fight was not competitive, and I was even saying before the fight, I'm like, geez, what a dangerous fight for Virgil, man. Like, I hope he
seems to have a lot of finishes activate, eh? Looked like a pretty action-packed night so far.
Yeah. So Virgil Ortiz's last opponent, I can't remember his name. Maybe Jay can help me out with that. But he he fought a guy who, this is where like the Tony Weeks memes started. He fought a guy who was rumored to have a brain aneurysm, and still well, no, like, and he still passed his pre-fight medicals. And apparently Tony Weeks knew about it. And the moment Virgil started like kind of landing on him, and within the first 30 seconds of the match, Tony Weeks jumped in and stopped the fight, which everybody was like, what the fuck? And then Tony Weeks ends up posting, hey, this guy had a brain aneurysm before. Like, he failed a brain scan and they still let him fight. So yeah, I'm just glad, Virgil did his thing. It was a showcase fight for him as usual on a Golden Boy or Top Rank card.
And he got a liver shot too, which is nice.
And it was vicious too. No, he did not die. He did not die. The Virgil Ortiz last opponent. But it was just a weird thing because like Tony Weeks posted and said, hey, the reason I stopped the fight so early was because this guy had an irregular brain scan. And then the post was quickly taken down, and then DAZN ended up saying like, oh yeah, like that's all false. He totally passed his brain scan. So yeah, what a weird thing to happen on a boxing card. We then had Jose Ramirez fighting Rancis Barthelemy. Jose Ramirez was fighting in his hometown. Rancis Barthelemy is a guy who, again, another just kind of like opponent, the B side, but he ended up hurting Jose Ramirez early on and dropping him. He then landed like 4 or 5 shots while he was on the ground, and the ref Jack Reese was really pissed off.
And he thought it was MMA. I don't blame him.
Yeah. Like, and he ended up hurting him again, but then slowly but surely he took over from like round 4 on. He just kind of took over, and Rancis kind of, when Rancis was being pushed up against the ropes, Ramirez would land a lot on him. Francis is a guy that kind of fights better at range, and he has a very weird, awkward style. So yeah, he ended up, taking the unanimous decision victory in his hometown. But I think Ramirez is a guy who's going to be a big favorite in the future. Nice. And
do you see somebody who finishes his opponents in the future? Or is he like a Dominic Cruz type where he dominates?
It's so hard to say in boxing at the lower weight classes, man. But Francis Bartholomew is a good opponent, so I think if he's in there with like a credible guy, he probably won't get the knockout. But again, I think this is one to watch. Like, watch for a good prop bet and probably bet against Ramirez in the future, because he did end up getting dropped by Rances. So I think like a early, like, take the under, against him in his next couple fights would be a smart move.
He's definitely done more for the Ramirez name in one fight than Scrappy has in his entire career.
That's funny.
Put him up. Like, get out of here, Scrappy. You can't throw shit, pal. All right. Well, that seemed like a fun boxing card while it lasted.
It was. I thought it was a good weekend overall for besides Glory. I think everybody had a good showcase.
Good for him.
We're then going to go over our picks for the UFC. So here's Hank's picks. I don't know if you guys are able to see that.
Yeah.
He ended up going 8-5 on the card. Why don't you go over some of your perfect picks?
Sure. Well, as you can see, this is a page from my journal that people are going to find after I commit a crime. And they're going to see this and be like, oh my God, we should have known he was crazy this whole time. Just look at this illustration. My God, it's like out of the Joker. So my first one was Mahashate. What the hell's his last name?
It's just Mahashate. It's just Mahashate.
Mahashate. I went with Mahashate. I thought that he would have more power than Gabriel Benitez. I thought if Jim Miller could finish him, then this young up-and-coming prospect who's not even 30 years old yet would be able to have power enough to put him away. But Gabriel was giving him problems and setting him up with the jab, trying to counter everything he did. Mahashate just could not land the Mahashate to put down Gabriel Benitez. And I think he got pretty annoyed over time. He didn't shoot one takedown. He didn't look energetic. I remember both of us had text messages afterwards that were like, oh, fuck Mahashate, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt the entire time. Like, this is a layup for you. Like, you're powerful enough that you've put away guys in the first and second round, and you can't put away this guy on a few weeks' notice who's trying to be there for a paycheck.
Right.
You're not going to be anything in the UFC. And I predict that's not how it's going to go either. You were right.
I don't know if you guys can see my Dragonite scrolling, my Dragonite mouse here. It's pretty sick. But, yeah, and I initially thought that Mahashate would be able to get a KO, but then I kind of went back on that and ended up picking a decision, because the interesting thing about Mowgli Gabriel Benitez is he's a guy who moved up. He like bounces between 145 and 155. And I thought that he would be able to knock him out. But Mahashate is like, again, with these Chinese guys, you can't really put a lot of stock in them. And he just and also, like, I thought the fight probably could have went either way by the end of it.
It could have really easily.
Mm-hmm. It was a close match, and Mahashate just kind of underperformed. So
I thought that his problem would be the grappling, because his kryptonite was the grappling in his last few fights, but apparently he's shit on the feet too. And Benitez trains at AKA, so yeah, definitely was surprising. But there was no grappling. This was actually a pretty good match. It was close, and it was kind of a slugfest. It was a fun fight, but I'm never picking Mahashate again in the future.
Yeah, fade Mahashate for sure. We kind of got lucky here, I feel like, with our pick. I ended up picking him to go to decision. Ended up getting that one correct. The next fight was
good old Ivana Petrovic versus I think
Ya Ling or something like that.
Ya Ling, yeah. Ya Liang.
I'll try to pull the card here.
I think we were both probably pretty much spot on with this pick. because everybody was saying that Ya has really good power to start the round, and she starts to dominate her opponents like in the first 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then as soon as somebody takes her down or hits her with something big, she starts to crumble. And she does not look good in the latter 2 rounds. She's sort of like a glass cannon. And what do you know? She dominates the first round, makes Petrovic look stupid, is marabbing her all over the place, and she can't get a bit of offense. And then
Robbing.
yeah, marabbing. Holly Holm is the alternative definition. Female marab. I'm glad she got put out by Kayla Harrison. She's my new favorite immediately because women's bantamweight is shit. And then the second round comes around, and then Ivana takes her down, and just like everybody said she would, she just starts crumbling, and she cannot get to her feet. I mean, she tried. She made a few attempts to get out, but Ivana's just too experienced on the ground, and she locked up. What was it? Like, was it a front submission? I think she did like a little like guillotine darce kind of thing. Where she really like folded in front of her, and she tapped. And it was a really good performance from Ivana in the second round, not in the first round, but it seems like every opponent of Yas has a tough time to start. So I'm not going to knock her for that. I think she looked decent, and she got a finish in a women's fight. So I got to give credit to her. Not the best of opponents to do it against, but the skills are there. We've seen that the skills are there. So good for her, and I can't wait to see what she does in the future. I'd love to see her go against other women's grapplers. Although now we know with the Silva versus Lipski, I mean, Silva fight, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and again, I almost had my pick correct with the decision. I know that's what Hank went with as well. We almost had it, man, and then she just ends up getting that finish in the third round. So, with these women's fights, man, it's always a safe pick to go with the decision, but then they ended up pulling out a finish.
Well, I'm not sad about it myself. I'm just glad that she won. That I got the person who
exactly.
won.
That's all that matters. A win is a win, right?
Yeah, and plus people place betting on women going to decisions all the time, and every once in a while they gotta make them lose their money.
We then had Chris Padilla getting a rear naked choke in the first round.
From Alex Perez, this was the shock of the card.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the underdog got it done. It's so hard to tell if, these debuting fighters, I don't think, big favorites on debuting fighters is always a good pick to go against, but Lontop was apparently highly touted for a reason, and you could even tell in the commentary was so biased towards Lontop.
They were glazing him like Joe Rogan with Ian Gary.
Or just jiu-jitsu fighters in general. Remember Rampage clowning Joe Rogan. But yeah, every time he got taken down, they're like, look, he's got good takedowns, but you can't hold him there. And he ended up catching him in a submission as he tried to get up. He ended up taking the back and securing the RNC. So Chris Padilla, good win for him on short notice.
He latched up that body triangle so quickly. I wonder if Isha was able to get the backpack sound effect in time. If he didn't, I'm pissed about that.
And Hank ended up he thought that Lontop would get the KO in the second.
Well, here was my logic for this. He already had 2 opponents that were higher quality, and both of them got canceled. And so this guy was showing up on literally a week's notice. People had no idea this fight was even going to be put together. And it seemed like the guy who had the training would be the one that would be able to look better on the feet and on the ground all around against a guy who was like, what was he on? Up Next FC or something? I don't even know what that promotion is. One thing that actually probably screwed me up is that Padilla was actually scheduled to fight a few months after this. So he actually was training before this one. I think he might have caught Lontop on off guard in terms of what he was expecting him to do. Because just had really good BJJ and grappling and just took him down in a cinch.
Yeah, and that's not bad logic. And I, as you can see here, I wasn't so sure about it, so I just ended up going Lontop decision. But yeah, ultimately a good win for Chris Padilla. I'm interested to see what he does next, and I think Lontop be able to bounce back. Just a little small bump in the road for the highly touted prospect. We then had a very boring.
You know what I'd say? I'd say keep Chris Padilla and see where he goes next. If you can like have him have his last fight on the other company contract, I'd give him a shot because with these Lopez types, you just never know what these guys' ceilings are. I'd give it a shot.
Appreciate you, Isha. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better today. That's partly why we didn't do our preview show. I was really swollen. I was actually considering doing the stream with like a fucking bandana over my face because my face was like pretty swollen up.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. We then had a pretty boring women's match against Ketlin Souza versus Marnik Mann.
She almost pulled a Mike Mallet towards the end.
We ended up both getting that pick perfect. Not impressive because I think we all kind of knew where this one was going to go. If you picked Marnik Mann, or as I like to say, Marnik Can, from Bozeman, like, look, man, we all know people from Bozeman are tough, but can they fight MMA? Unless your name is Sean O'Malley and you're from Helena, Montana, I would bet against the no there because Idaho, Oregon, Montana, Washington, these states are pretty underdeveloped for MMA now. You obviously have Michael Chiesa, who trains out of Spokane, Terrence McKinney, who trains out of Spokane, and Juliana Pena, who have reached the higher levels of the sport. Pena winning a women's championship, but yeah, and as Isha says, Marnik Mann was tough, but again, somebody from Bozeman, of course they're tough, but does that mean that they're going to do well in high-level MMA? I think not, We ended up both getting that pick correct. Good win for Ketlin Souza. She moves on. And what to do with Marnik Mann, man? Like, I don't even know if they should keep her around. I don't understand. And another fighter who...
Souza had an opportunity to finish this fight at multiple points. She was piecing her up, and then when a man invited her into the clinch, she obliged, and she pulled a negative fight IQ moment. And there were just multiple points where she got dragged back down to the ground, or she tried to take her down when she was piecing her up. And like if she'd have kept going and just got her with a few more punches, she could have. Actually, she might have had an opportunity for a bonus.
And did you see Dominic Cruz like saying, "Oh, I think she won that third round just based off of toughness"? Like, yeah, I don't know what Cruz is on these days. He needs to be reined in. But at least he's down to criticize fighters for bad IQ and technique.
Yeah.
As far as scoring goes,
you're guaranteed that if Souza is beaten down, man, and the referee doesn't step in, Cruz is going to be like, "Way to give her time." Way to give her space to recover and get back in the fight because he didn't get that chance against.
And I totally agree with this. DC and DC are a trash combo, though. I do like the clash of thought there. It just doesn't work. I think the only way it really works is when John Anik is there to like rein them in. Yeah, I don't know, man. But anyway, our next fight was Dontel Mays versus Caio Machado. Not much to say on this one. Dontel Mays did end up dropping Caio in the second or first round. And yeah, it was exciting for like the first two rounds, and then the third was kind of a drag, if you ask me. It looks like our boy ended up.
It was a close fight in some ways. Like they were going tit for tat by the second and third rounds.
Looks like our boy Tank ended up thinking that Caio would get the sub in the second.
Yes. I thought he would have a chance to take him down, but I guess he never tried it.
I ended up picking Mays by knockout, which I almost got when he dropped Machado, but ultimately he wins a unimpressive decision. I'm not sure what you do with Dontel Mays next. I don't know what they are trying to do with him.
Give Arlovsky the rematch. Give him the chance to redeem himself.
He says that he's going to be champ in 2025. I don't know about that, but
highly doubt it.
And regarding the Dragonair, so it's Dragonair when it's like a regular cursor, and then when you go to like select something, it turns into Dragonite. So
I'd say give him Mick Parkin to put him out of his misery and get revenge for.
And Jay Sharp calls Dontel Mays Michael Jai whack. By the way, what's up, Jay Sharp? Hope you're doing good. Shout out to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. All right, we then have our next fight: Austin Hubbard versus Michael Figlak.
This is a controversial one. It's an
A controversial one, as
different people
many people in the City Life stream said. Now, over on the Rush Hour side,
that's coincidence.
Over on the Rush Hour side, with the adults, nobody was crying robbery at all. Maybe because we weren't as tuned in,
You were hitting the bong a little bit. You were in a drug session in the basement.
That's funny.
You seeing colors, and the screen was going on. Little flies were going back and forth. It was hard to tell what was going on.
Sure, yeah. There's smoke. There was smoke in there.
Yeah, you can see past the smoke.
That's funny. So Austin Hubbard ends up getting the win, depending on who you ask. Yeah, this is kind of why I fade the Polish fighters a lot. No matter what way you slice it, I thought this was a pretty good competitive fight.
Yeah,
you can say it was a robbery, whatever. Like, that's fine, I guess. But guys, close fights are not robberies. I hate to break it to you.
It was sort of sus that it was completely unanimous, though. But there wasn't one judge that had it for Figlak. And
so I never understood. I never understood that logic because all three judges did give him the third round. I never understood the logic that's like, oh, if it's a close fight, it should be a split decision. It's like, no, I mean, all three of the judges clearly saw 1 and 2 for Hubbard, and then the third. So again, I think a lot of people
round 2 for Hubbard.
I think a lot of people think this is like somehow pride scoring. Like, if you win the last 3 minutes of the fight, you win the whole.
It's not that. We legit thought that he won round 2. So he found it just a little bit strange. I mean, there are just moments in both rounds where it just looks like Figlak could barely just wedge an advantage. So it's just shocking that neither of those were counted as Figlak, given he had bigger shots.
Well, and as Isha said, on a 10-point must, no way he wins the second round. Well, he did, according to all three of the judges at ringside. So
yeah,
I don't know how that adds up. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
they were on their phones.
Look, good fight.
It was one of the best fights of the night. It could have gotten a bonus.
True. Our boy Hank went with Figlak, and Isha's pick. I watched his pick'em stream. He ended up telling everyone to go with Figlak. I was debating on going with Figlak, but ultimately, I do like Austin Hubbard, and I do like his skill set. I think he's just a little slow, and that's one thing I wanted to say about this fight. For a 155-pound fight, this was a pretty slow fight, I thought. As far as both people seemed a little slow. So I think that's their biggest weakness, is the speed of some of these lightweights is going to give them problems. So,
what was I going to say? Oh, could you go back to my my pick?
Yeah.
Image. If you'll notice, I have a little icon next to both the cow and the fight and the Figlak fights. It's a little money bag. And
I see that
it's crossed out with, and then the other one has the up arrow. So I wonder if you can tell, Idaho, what that icon is supposed to mean.
If I can tell you what it's supposed to mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You see, when you're trying to take money out of a bank forcefully, and you have to put the people at the counter by gunpoint, and then strap the bombs to the safe. And
okay, yeah, I would say that's a robbery.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a robbery. Both because they were the ones I picked. They were robbery.
Hey, look, man, look. Anisha even says he's a big he's a big avid person and saying, hey, don't call it a robbery, but I guess he really is sold on this one being a robbery. So
yeah,
again, dude, if you're not
questions Isha's glory, all right?
If you're not overtaking the fight in a significant way, there's always going to be some debate over the judging criteria because it's very open-ended. And look, if you guys feel like somebody clearly lost 2 rounds, clearly, and 1 round was won by the other guy, I guess I can understand how you say that's a robbery. To me, a robbery is if somebody clearly wins 3 rounds and then the unanimous decision goes the other way. That's a robbery.
I feel like I wouldn't even call it a robbery, but
Dolgarian
versus C-Rod.
Yeah,
Like, I
that was a
cannot
close
understand
fight
that
too.
decision. I cannot understand that decision at all. They just
Yeah,
don't count offensive grappling whatsoever, these judges. That counts as damage. Sub attempts, keeping him down the whole time, beating him up. And it's just so weird. Like every judge's criteria is in their own mind.
Well, and then what was that one guy? Is it Mike Bell? Who after what was it? It was one of who's that guy who beat Rafion Stotts a bunch of times? Or he beat Rafion or it was a close fight with Rafion Stotts. The wrestler guy in Bellator? God, what is his name? Sorry, I'm blanking on him.
Wait, Bellator?
Yeah, he was in the Grand Prix. He's a wrestler. He's a bantamweight wrestler who fought Rafion Stotts.
Is that Patchy Mix?
No, not Patchy Mix. He's a white dude.
Oh, Primus? Oh wait, no. He was like an Italian guy, right?
No. He's an American wrestler. God, help me out, chat. What is that guy's name?
Okay. What are we gonna do, man?
He's like, Danny Sabatello. Thank you, Isha. Yeah,
that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. So there was a fight with Rafion Stotts and Danny Sabatello, and I believe Mike Bell is the judge, who scored the fight like every 4 rounds to 1 for Sabatello, and all the other judges scored it 4 rounds to 1 for Stotts. So there was a lot of controversy over that, and Mike Bell ended up making a post about it. He said, "It's so hard to score a fight. You watch the round, and then like the last 10 seconds, you got to make a quick decision and turn in your right down a 10 or a 9. And Big John had a great point. This is back when I used to actually watch Big John and Josh Thompson's podcast, which I've stopped watching.
For what reason?
Because they both claim to be religious Christians, yet then they are sponsored by OnlyFans. Yeah, that's hypocrisy.
Christian activity to me.
That's hypocrisy to me. So for that reason, I stopped watching their podcast. But anyway, Big John had a great point. He goes, "Dude, you're not supposed to make a decision on who won the round in the last 10 seconds. You're supposed to score the entire round and already know who you're going to pick." So, yeah, like, again, I don't know why I went on that tangent there, but
it was a tangent.
It's the open scoring debate. I think open scoring is a terrible idea, me personally. Maybe, yeah, I don't agree with the open scoring concept, especially for like big matches. But I guess we can have that debate here. I mean, what do you think?
Hey, Isha, at BK, have it your way. Get out!
Right. And what do you think about open scoring? And chat, go ahead and weigh in on this.
I enjoy open scoring. I think it's what made the Pride fights so much fun. In that, you could have Vanderlei Silva
Pride had open scoring.
Well, I believe so. Like it had moments. I remember there were certain years where like Vanderlei Silva was dominating, but then Mark Hunt comes back and is kicking ass by the time it's over. Wait, no. What am I thinking of? It's Pride. I'm thinking Pride, right? Vanderlei Silva and then Mark Hunt came back and they scored all every judge had it for Hunt. And that was an exciting moment. And I thought, oh my God, he's down on the scorecards. There's no way he wins. And then he was kicking his ass by the end of it. And he won because he was the better man by the end of it. But what other promotions have that scoring system?
According to Isha, there's no open scoring. And I think that there's like a couple regional shows that were trying it out. And then Octagon is definitely one of them. And then only kickboxing has open scoring. So I think you're wrong on that Pride has open scoring. But I just personally think that open scoring, like, it doesn't work just because, like, reading that decision is part of the show, right? Like, yeah. Finding out who wins. Random Polish Promotions has it. He says, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I personally am not a good component of open scoring. maybe telling the coaches only might be okay and not the audience. But again, I just think that it's not a good idea.
And it sort of sucks when someone's dominating for 5 rounds and then gets dropped once and loses the whole fight because he was the worst man by the end of it. Like, are you judging like?
Wait. Are you saying open scoring or like entire and scoring the entirety of the bout?
Oh, I think we're referring to different concepts.
Like, yeah. Okay.
Open scoring is like, okay, we're showing you the scorecards ahead of time.
Yes.
You know what's going. The open scoring I was thinking about was the scoring where you don't judge it round by round, but for the entire fight and how the momentum's like swinging. That's how Pride worked. Like, it wasn't just round by round. Okay, 10-9.
Yeah, totally. No. Open scoring is like knowing the scorecards as the round ends, like seeing the judges' scores.
It's not as fun. It's not, but
right. And that's
somewhere like you don't. The one plus side is that if you watch enough UFC and you're just sick of the robberies or you're sick of the crazy scorecards, like watching Bellator or PFL and seeing like the scorecards, and here's how AI had it, and I'm like, okay, so at least they're going to do this the right way.
Sure. And I'll address your comment, Denial. Yeah, like he says, what's your logic? And that's basically what Hank said is like, it just makes it less exciting. I think for like, maybe like for the prelims, it makes sense. But then if you do it for the prelims, you got to do it for the whole show. So yeah, I personally don't agree with open scoring.
It takes
and then also, and then as A says, he hopes that the UFC never gets open scoring.
It becomes,
I don't think it,
even when it's bad, it becomes a spectacle.
Sure. But I also think that like, it doesn't stop people saying that the fights are robberies.
Right.
And I also think that this is a big problem with like boxing or when Bellator did their shows, how like Big John would score the fighter. They have like a ringside score. By the end of the fight, everybody just goes off of their score. You know what I'm saying? So
my question is, do the fighters get to know what the scores are before they start?
In some promotions they do, and some they don't.
I'd recommend that if you're having open scoring, you should let the fighters know, so that the one who knows that he's being robbed is like, okay, shit, I'm being robbed. I need to pick up the pace and get a finish.
Sure, yeah.
They can't be in doubt.
But see, in that same vein, the guy knowing he's getting the favorable judging could potentially run around. So
like Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, I think for MMA it doesn't work as well. But that's just my opinion.
In my opinion, I think that if you're going to have open scoring, their scores should be revisable.
Like, that's insane, dude. I don't know about that. Anyway, let's move on to the next fight. So, Victor Henry.
Hashtag revisable scoring, guys.
Victor Henry defeats Ronnie Yaya.
Good for Victor Henry.
In the third round, he gets a KO. Well, it looks like our guy Hank picked Henry by decision, as did I.
Yeah.
I did not.
Wise based on his last fights, but we shouldn't have underestimated just how shit Yaya was.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Yaya is 39 at bantamweight. Just not good for the competitive nature of it. I mean, not much to say. Victor Henry pretty much dominated the fight. Yaya had a full head of hair by the first round, and by the third round he was like half bald. So yeah.
he was taking off that dome one at a
time. He beat the hair follicles out of Yaya.
Yeah.
Not much to say on this one. I ended up underestimating Victor Henry, and overestimating the durability of Ronnie Yaya. Ronnie Yaya probably should be cut. Probably shouldn't be fighting in the UFC anymore. And Victor Henry, I'm excited to see what he does. Can he win a belt? No, but I think he could be potentially a perennial
decent contender.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Our next fight was Uros Medic KOing Tim Means with an uppercut in the first round.
I'm becoming a big fan of Uros Medic. I love how he strikes.
Our guy Hank predicted round two.
Because in the Semmelsberger fight, it took him a while to KO him. So I thought Tim Means would be gritty enough to make it to a second round.
I predicted round three. And actually the Semmelsberger fight is what really sold it for me, that he would get a knockout in this fight. Tim Means is just way past it. Kind of like the previous fight. I think we just kind of overestimated his durability there.
But Tim Means did show that when he's against the right opponent, he can be tough and he can get enough combinations to finish a fight. But Fialho's shit. At the same time, Fialho's just absolutely terrible. So you can't really count that as, oh, this shows that he's good enough to take on Medic. No, I'd argue that Semmelsberger has better knockdown ability than Tim Means does, and he 100%. Got flatlined. And the thing about Medic is, I think he's sort of like a Pereira, where eventually he just finds it. Eventually he gets his timing and he finds it. If it's not against grapplers and Dagestanis, if it's against a striker, eventually he will find the timing and he will get it. Like, I'm really impressed with how he's throwing these things just out of nowhere, like early, and hoping that it lands. Like, I love that he takes those risks.
Yeah, and he looked really sharp, and he's got some power. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Medic does next at 170, because 170's getting really a lot more interesting, but it's still a little bit open at the bottom. So our next fight was David Onama versus Jonathan Pierce, JSP. I scored this fight for Jonathan Pierce. I thought he won 2-1. Third round, Onama.
I'm not as sure about that one.
Third round, Onama took over and got that one handily for sure. So, but you don't hear me crying robbery, right?
No. Yeah.
I thought the fight was
arguable. It's arguable.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously the judges got Onama winning the fight. Again, I'm not calling a robbery or that it should have been a split decision. There were definitely the first. There was some closer rounds in there. And I don't know though, man. Like, neither of these guys was super impressive in this fight, other than the fact that this was a grueling match. So many scrambles.
Yeah, and I think Onama has like negative IQ for some of the scrambles that he was trying to get on Pierce. Like, how are you expecting to climb up onto a guy's shoulders with your legs and try to cinch something up from there? Like, I don't see how you could possibly get a submission in. Why do you not take him down? Or at the very least, you know that you were piecing him up in round one and giving him his troubles on the feet, and then immediately escape once you're on the feet. Why did Onama try to? He's like every guy who's like beating up his opponent, and then
I certainly heard that take from MMA Guru too. So
yeah, I just think that really needs to like the Medic. He needs to have his brain examined.
That was a diss from me to you, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, check my pick. I have a little illustration for Mr. Onama. It's that little cone down there, and if you zoom in on that one, it
gets the dunce cap.
It reads dunce. Yeah, I gave him the dunce cap, and
there you go.
After this fight, he should be sent to the corner like a good little.
Yeah, and I ended up getting that one wrong. I did pick Pierce, which may have swayed my judging there, but yeah, ultimately,
and the fact that he had a great fight of the night against Nate the Train, but guess who looked like a dumbass in that fight too? David Onama and Nate the Train. They were just swinging back and forth with little technique or ideas in terms of strategies on how to win. Like once you just enter like second round, third round for Onama, it's just like all logic goes out the window.
Yeah, and I think I think it's safe to fade both these guys in their next fights.
Yeah,
but again,
Onama has the talent. He has the talent and he has the power.
Just doesn't have the IQ.
He just needs the coaching. Maybe he should get a new coach, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think the fight was close and it was a good fight, but yeah, I think fading these guys in their next fight's a good choice because the 145 division's so stacked, and these guys did make a lot of mistakes. So it was a grueling, tough fight. So credit to both of them for having a tough fight.
Pierce made the mistake of thinking that he could just get his legs around Onama's hips and that he would just be stuck there. Nope, his hips are too thin, and he was able to reverse it every single time. And then Onama thought that he was big shit, and that he could dominate on the ground as well as on the feet. And he learned a pretty bad lesson there. He wasn't allowed to do his Izzy celebration with the arrows down.
Yeah, that's a direct quote from MMA Guru there, guys, by the way, from Hank's part. So.
Yes, sure. He needs a coach who's like, stop fucking shooting takedowns.
Yeah,
like Dustin Poirier, stop doing guillotines.
Well, I think he didn't. I think he didn't really have a choice but to grapple, because Jonathan Pierce was like that's all he was going for, and that's really what lost him the fight. For being honest, he just wasn't able to strike with David, and he wasn't able to. Though he did have 5 minutes of control time,
good job,
wasn't able to do much with it, outside of the elbows briefly for I don't know, about 30 seconds. But
those are crazy odds. Activate A. He got plus 500 on Onama.
Wow.
That's crazy. He's a great underdog. It's like they didn't even watch his last couple fights.
Anyway. We then had
amazing comeback.
Jonata Denise versus Austin Lane. This is one that I went back and forth on. I really considered picking Austin Lane. And he showed why in the first round. I mean, he damn near got Denise out of there. But then Denise came back in the second, was able to stuff all the takedowns, and he just folded Austin Lane. It was kind of a funny knockout because he
knocked him out in slow motion.
Right. And then Austin Lane kind of fell in slow motion too.
He literally fell like a tree after that one.
Yeah, like he was like up for a second and then he just so yeah. I think Denise, if he's a big favorite in his next fight, it might not be terrible to fade him because Austin Lane, let's just face it, probably a guy who shouldn't be in the UFC.
Yeah, everybody said he was trash before the fight even started.
Exactly. So good win for Denise.
We know that he gets knocked out by the fat heavyweights. So if you can get knocked out by the fat heavyweights, you're getting knocked out by everybody.
I think Austin Lane is a good person probably for BKFC. Which stay tuned. I think we're gonna have a BKFC draft segment in an upcoming episode.
But I also want to give Jonata Denise credit for switching on in the second round. He probably listened to his coaches too, because he was stuffing every one of those takedowns in the first round. Like he said before the fight started that he had been practicing his grappling and his wrestling more before the fight started. And I told Isha that in the chat, and he's like, "Oh, well, let's see what happens." And it seemed like we were proven completely wrong, but we weren't proven wrong. It just took a little bit of time for us to be proven right. That he did train and practice it, and that he just needed the right motivation to do it. It's like Alex Pereira with Jan, where he gets taken down immediately, and then he doesn't get taken down afterwards. He learns his lesson. And just battered him. In my opinion, he had better technique than the Taffa brothers in disposing of Wayne too.
That goes without saying. So yeah, we then had our next fight: Karine Silva versus Ariane Lipski, or Da Silva as she's known now.
Da Silva. She's not just Silva; she's Da Silva.
So what a confusing match to call, Silva versus Da Silva. There's already enough Silvas in Brazil and Oliveira's. I don't think we need more. But
what if you had Anderson Silva watching this fight night? He's like, "Oh, Silva in the crowd."
Which one?
Silva, with Da Silva.
Which one? The kickboxer or I'm just kidding.
Both of them.
So Hank, he kind of roasted me. I was like, "Oh yeah, I picked Lipski." I was sweating that one. He goes, "Why'd you pick Lipski?" And I'm like, "Fuck you! I thought she would win. I don't know. What do you want me to say?" She had a good last performance.
There's always got to be a reason. Got to have some motivation.
Yeah, there wasn't a reason. I just kind of was guessing on that one.
Yeah, you're flipping a coin. It's limited. Yeah,
ultimately, Karine showed why she hasn't had a decision win, and Lipski. This is the problem with Lipski, man. And I cannot pick a Lipski fight. I just can't. Every time I pick her to win, she loses. Every time I pick her to lose, she wins. So
she just hates you at this point. I think
that's got to be it.
She wants to prove you mad at you.
Only logical answer. So our boy Hank, he ended up picking this one correctly. Oh no, he said that there would be a sub.
Yeah, and to be fair, she did take her down, and she was doing well in the grappling. But I think Lipski / Da Silva has good grappling too. So you're probably not going to be able to submit her. But I will say that I did hear from people on Tapology that when Da Silva gets taken down, she is not able to get back up. And she has pretty bad defense while on her back. And so I assumed that Silva was going to have the timing to shoot the takedown and at the very least keep her down on the mat. And that's exactly what she did. Did I expect her to get a sub? Maybe, because she had round one subs. She got pretty close at some points, but that's just in the cards. She wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, and I had Lipski winning the decision. That looked pretty bad, so Hank gets some points for that one. And yeah, I think Activate A brings up a good point. Karine is probably not going to be able to get finishes in the higher level fights. But ultimately, she moves on and gets a win in a terrible Apex card. But we then had Bogdan Guskov, or a.k.a. Anthony Smith, versus Ryan Span 3.
Anthony Smith's bastard son.
So I didn't really think anybody was picking Ryan Spann. Our boy picked Spann to get the KO in the second. I picked him to get the KO in the third, which, again, every time I think there's going to be a KO from now on in Tapology, I'm going to pick the third round just to save myself some just kind of for a safe pick standpoint.
And you don't have to be angry that they don't KO them in the first round.
Totally, yeah, no.
It'll happen later. It'll happen later.
There you go. Right. No, that's exactly why. And then once the third round, once it goes to a decision, I can hope till the last, 10 seconds that there's gonna be a KO. But
it was just luck. It was just luck.
Yeah. So what do you have? What are your thoughts on this fight? Because I thought it was interesting, and then Guskov just took over, and this guy's a vicious striker, man.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, ever since the Krylov fight, I had some belief that Spann had decent grappling, and that it wasn't just a one-trick pony. That he wasn't just knocking out Dominic Reyes because they were beating him somebody. That he actually had decent striking and he had good power. And in his last fights, he showed that he can knock people out and he can take people down and sub them, or at least attempt to sub them. And so I just thought that Ryan Spann would have a lot more range, a lot more variety in his offense. I think I looked at people's comments that were saying that Ryan Spann was taller than Guskov, and Guskov hadn't fought a lot of opponents that were taller than him. And so Spann would have sort of an advantage in being up there. So Guskov has to change up his striking to match the height advantage that Spann had. And in the meantime, Spann would time him and then take him down and beat him up. And I was right about him taking him down. He had good timing. He tried to sub him, which didn't really work out. Usually at heavyweight, that doesn't end up working out. He should have just been
light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight. And then the second round rolls around, and like some people were saying, and I agree, Spann's just a moron. He just has horrible fight IQ, and he gets his advantage, and then he just throws it away. And he did so here in that he didn't shoot one takedown until he was rocked during the second round. He should have known that he had a complete advantage against Guskov on the ground, and timed him with a left, because he was actually had decent striking in places and was touching him up. He should have done like the feint. Oh, left hand. Oh, shoot the takedown. Oh, I got him down. And then don't lay on him, because you don't want to risk damage being over control, but get into some good positions and maybe even sub him again. And instead he chose not to do that and thought, oh, I'm tough shit. Oh, I won that first round, so now I can just sort of play with it. You can't play against a powerhouse. And that's what he learned here with Guskov. And Guskov was better than him in the striking. I will say that both guys are good at striking, but I think Guskov just overwhelms his opponents. I don't think that he would get overwhelmed so quickly.
Yeah, and I don't think that Guskov is the next guy up at light heavyweight, but
no,
but he's certainly going to be. He's certainly going to be in exciting fights every time, I like that he's playing into the Anthony Smith angle, because in the post fight interview, he's like, "This is not Lionheart. This is Guskov." I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So
on paper, I win every fight against every opponent. It's not on paper. It's written in ink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that Ryan Spann,
he just seems like a modern guy, even though he's from Uzbeki. He has quite the personality, and I like his smile too. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's definitely one to watch in the light heavyweight division. As far as being champ, I don't think so. But
he's not.
I think Spann kind of
grappling.
I think Spann kind of tricked everybody by when he won that Dominic Reyes fight, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I now just started taking training seriously." I think he kind of fooled all of us into thinking he had more potential. So
he met his kryptonite once again, which seems to be every opponent now.
We then had the upset of the evening, and possibly the whole weekend. Definitely the whole weekend.
Yeah, I'm proud of Perez, dude.
Alex Perez KOs Mateus Nicolau in the second, and
serious style.
I still think Nicolau is a good fighter, which is partly why I picked him. As you can see, we both picked Nicolau to win a decision.
Yeah,
and I think
these fights have gone.
And I think that again, I think Nicolau is a good fighter, but I think his chin might be compromised. I'm not going to sit here and say he's chinny and he's washed and all that stuff, but I think he needs to take some time off and really rethink the matchmaking he takes moving forward, because I think his chin's definitely compromised as of now. The first round, he didn't really seem to be able to get anything going, and the striking, immediately it was obvious that the striking was in Alex Perez's favor. Mm-hmm. And Alex Perez is a muscly guy for 125.
Yeah. He also has really good timing with his strikes.
And he's a big flyweight that maintains his speed. But this was a tough one to see coming, man, because Alex Perez, being on a 4-fight losing streak and having a lot of canceled bouts, hard for him to even get to the cage. But knowing that his last fight with Mokaev went the way it did, I think in hindsight, it wasn't a bad pick to pick Perez. But
I think Activate A is right on the button in terms of like that comment. He's spot on in that. I think both men's motivations could have determined this fight. Where Alex Perez was pissed coming off the Mokaev fight because he probably thought he won it, or that he was smiling on Mokaev, and Mokaev was getting in positions where he couldn't get hurt. So maybe Perez thought that he had the spiritual victory in that and was motivated to like, dude, I'm better than Mokaev. And this guy could have challenged for a belt. I need to get better. I need to prove to these guys that I can do this. And so I bet he probably trained more than he ever did. He certainly didn't cancel this fight on short notice. Like, this is a different Perez. Perez would have canceled this fight in a heartbeat. The old Perez of like a few years ago. He'd be like, oh, short notice? Oh, fuck that shit. I'm gone. I'm canceling that. I'm canceling the next 5 fights after this. Not this time. Now he's taking fights on short notice. Doesn't care what happens. Trains really hard for them. And he actually like tries to punch his opponents instead of just taking them down and laying on them.
Yeah. So, I think I think Activate A is definitely spot on. Nicolau just looked timid and probably still having nightmares that knee knockout that Royval got on him. But
that made him timid. Yep.
I don't know, man. What do you want to see next for both of these guys? I think maybe you match Nicolau up with Mokaev, which I know it doesn't really make that much sense. And then
it's not going to be
Alex
fun.
Perez needs a good fight up next. Do not give him a nail cop, please, because that fight will definitely get canceled. Someone's going to pull out.
Yeah, if not both of them at the exact same time.
Yeah, literally the exact same time.
And then they're like with each other in a room, and they're like, "I'm pulling out." Jinx! Oh, you owe me a soda.
Right.
You.
Let me pull up the flyweight rankings here.
Maybe put him against Car France or Albazi.
Yeah. Give. Well, I think
Albazi versus France would be a decent fight.
Yeah. I think Albazi should fight Moreno.
Yeah. Well, where is Moreno right now? He looks like he's good. Like he's afraid to come back.
I'm not sure about that one. I think Perez versus Albazi is a good one for #1 contender.
Yeah.
But Mokaev just screwed himself by having that listless performance against Perez. He screwed himself big time because now obviously Urseg getting the title shot.
Maybe they should match up Cap with France again. And just get it
done.
I think both guys are the same sort of cowards, so just put them against each other at this point.
I think maybe Moreno Nicolau, because that one hasn't happened, and also I don't think that Nicolau, like, that's too much of a knockout threat for Nicolau. And then give Perez Albazi if Albazi takes the fight, right?
And decide the #1 contender. Like, screw Royval at this point. He lost decidedly against Pantoja, although there were rounds where he was piecing him up, and that's why in a way I do sort of value Urseg as a potential challenger for Pantoja, like an actual threat. But at the same time, you lost to the guy fair and square.
We got
keep you away from the title scene for a while, dude. You have to prove yourself.
So we got did Mateus Nicolau already fight Matt Schnell?
I think he did, yeah.
Okay.
He could rebook it, but
yeah, man, the flyweight, it's so crowded, and all these guys have fought each other so many times.
Yeah,
I think Manel Cap versus Albazi, #1 contender. Do Moreno, Perez, or Royval Perez and Moreno Nicolau.
Yeah, whatever works, whatever's clever. You know,
What
the
about
UFC is just going to book something completely different to what we want anyway. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah, but hey, two boys can dream, can't they?
I think I like or maybe even Mokaev Moreno.
All
But
right,
yeah,
just give it a shot. We'll see what
and
happens.
yeah, it's been rumored that Kai Kara is going to take some time off, as he should. I think he's had some bad.
Activate A is right. At this point, Tetsura is going to get a title shot at number 15 against Van.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with the flyweight division is all these guys have just fought each other so many times.
Well, Pantoja's destroyed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So he's pulling a Mighty Mouse and clearing out the whole division, and eventually the
Or,
UFC's going to get real.
Or Anderson Silva.
Yeah. So I fear for Pantoja's future. I'd actually hope that he gets knocked out by Urseg so that he has some interesting fights in the future. Otherwise, it's going to be very lonely at the top. Then again, he was a former Uber driver, so he probably wants to keep that belt forever and ever. So
the Uber driver.
Yeah, he was a former Uber driver. That was a story that he was making pennies, and then the UFC basically saved him. Oh, and now he was fighting while being an Uber driver as well. So he needs to fight for every dollar that he gets from the UFC. So he wants to hold. He's clutching that belt for dear life. But I think the UFC probably wants to take it off of him if they're not having a Brazil card, because he's systematically destroying this division.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 301 is not a good card to me.
Yeah, it's this. Honestly, this fight night might end up being better than UFC 301.
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious. Like, it actually had some decent finishes and surprising results, and people can talk about it, especially Perez coming out of nowhere and actually getting a finish in a fight everybody expected to go all 5 rounds. So, like, this might end up being more exciting. And I think Jose Aldo will single-handedly make the card more interesting, but at the same time, like, the fights for 301 are not promising. I'm not looking forward to almost any of them.
Yeah, me neither. It's sad that it's a pay-per-view.
It is. I think UFC really screws the pooch when they have these cards in specific countries and pray that their champions are available. But then again, they're just bad at long-term planning and booking in general. They don't think ahead of time. They just put all these crappy fights on the cards that are 6 months out, and then they realize that they don't have anybody for those cards, so they just keep the bad fights like in the prelims, early prelims, and then they try to stack it like it's a fight night card, and then last 3 fights will be good. Like they just don't have any wherewithal of like, okay, how can we make every single one of our fight nights and pay-per-views stacked? Because that's what UFC used to be back in 2019, 2018. Like, I was looking at these fight night cards like, whoa, Yan's on the prelims, Volkanovski's opening, Overeem's co-main event, and then meanwhile you got Max Holloway in the main, and then this huge women's title fight is here. Like they would just stack these fight nights, especially the ones that are taking place in other countries. Like noticeable names, like top to bottom, head to toe. And now you hardly have anybody. Like 60-70% of the fighters on fight night cards are people nobody knows.
Right. Yeah. And whatever happened to, like, obviously they're doing it with this next card, but I mean, they screwed the pooch on the potential UFC Africa show they could have had.
I mean, yeah. Oralby versus Brenner is going to be exciting. Well, yeah, it will be if Oralby doesn't take him down and crotch sniff him the entire time, which might actually happen. I'm sorry to say. Brenner's a dog, and Brenner can get a comeback against pretty much anybody, but Oralby, he used to be cool in the striking, but now I think he's had a much more decidedly reserved approach, and I think he's going to try the same thing against Brenner, and it's not going to look very good at all. And let me look at I am happy that John Silva's on the card. John Silva's an absolute badass.
Did you see him? The guy who barked at that one guy?
Yes, and wore those goofy ass glasses as part of the Fight Nerds. Mm-hmm. And was wearing like the hoodie to the ring. Like, everything about him just screams awkward energy, but also like he's got a mystique to his awkwardness.
We then moved to BKFC, probably the crown jewel of the weekend.
In terms of like who had the star power, maybe.
Yeah, totally. I want to talk about David Diaz versus Shane Jordan. This was like just such a war, man. This is like one of the best fights I saw all weekend. David Diaz is just a crazy man. Always willing to scrap. And I did not see Shane Jordan being this scrappy against him. I mean, not much to say here. It's just a crazy Bkfc brawl. Ends in a draw, which I thought was a little weird, but
it seemed like Diaz sort of pulled it off towards the end, don't you think?
Yeah, I think he's just so scrappy that he's always exciting, man.
He'll win his fight.
We then had Crystal Pittman versus Sidney Smith.
They saved the drought infested no finish card.
Yeah, and
it was KO, and it was the women. See, this is why you have women's MMA on fight cards, because once in a while, in a blue moon, they could actually save the show.
Yeah, Crystal Pittman versus Sidney Smith was like I called it like tits versus crack.
Yeah,
you know, sometimes
the embodiment of Hills Have Eyes.
Sometimes you can see like a women's fighter in BKFC go in there, and you're like, why is this person here?
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing? From? Right, and this was definitely a testament to that. And what I noticed with a lot of these fighters in BKFC is like the first time they get hit, they're like, "Oh shit, I don't want to be here," you know. And that's what you saw here with Sidney Smith.
Yeah, as soon as you feel the knuckle, like you start to crumble a little bit.
Totally,
like your whole face is getting exploded.
So she gets a good win and possibly going to fight Christine Ferreira next, and that is not a good fight for her. They're just trying to find anybody to fight Christine at this point, and she's a dog. So
I can sum up the next fight in one sentence.
Go for it.
What it is? Let me bang, bro.
Let me bang. Please. Yeah, let me bang, bro. Gets a win in a really weird stoppage.
What even was it?
I don't even remember, honestly. Like, the guy just kind of quit and wasn't able to continue after like a knockdown, I think.
No, it was like his eye or something.
Something like that. I don't remember exactly. I don't
think Lane knocked him down.
Hard hitting analysis here from us. But the next fight was amazing. You had Alfredo Angulo, former Canelo victim, versus Jeremiah Riggs. So look at this guy's Tapology picture.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Wow. This is from his college days back in the
right. So Angulo versus Riggs was amazing. Riggs just came out.
Oh, it was the bicep. That's right.
Riggs just came out like swinging against Angulo. It was insane.
Yeah,
it was insane. He was beating the hell out of him, and he was grabbing his braids and like pulled him out,
being a cheater about it. And the referee didn't notice it or just didn't care.
He just was going wild, and I think this is really the way to beat these boxers is just kind of overwhelm them. But and I thought he was going to get the finish, and the ref was even like coming in close, and it looked like he was potentially going to get the stoppage. And then Angulo, it seemed like Riggs just punched himself out, and then Angulo just hits him with a vicious right hand and floors him
immediately. Yeah,
and he's not able to beat the count. So what a crazy, exciting match! Yeah. This one got me really amped.
This is almost out of Angulo's control the entire time. He didn't accidental rope a dope. I'm sure it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He did a fantastic Muhammad Ali strategy that wasn't his own. He didn't even think of it.
I think they're going to set up Angulo versus Austin Trout, two former boxers fighting for a BKFC title. I think that'll be interesting.
Also, he made Izzy proud with that dog collar and then the win after. He's really cementing Izzy's legacy here.
We then had a very strange match between Ben Rothwell and Todd Duffy. Looked like to me that Todd Duffy got hit with that first knockdown of Ben Rothwell, got up and was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. He got paid $85,000, so I think he was happy with his purse.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he wasn't even allowed to be in Japan twice, and so he'd already been denied a few paychecks, so probably a last resort for him.
What was it, because he like failed a drug test or something?
No, I just think, sometimes when you're going to a different country that you don't really have a passport for it yet, those don't work. The ID doesn't transfer. Like, it's just strange things with the stats or the information. He just couldn't get in there.
So he then gets knocked down. He gets pushed down and doesn't get back up. They call it a TKO injury for Ben Rothwell, and Rothwell was
hard headbutt, and then he fell, and then he snapped his arm.
Rothwell basically just been running through everybody, and he has no competition. So I really want to see him fight Mick Terrell next for the heavyweight title.
Yeah, if this wasn't going to be, if it wasn't going to be the second knockdown, it was going to be the third, and then the fourth, and then the fifth. So he's not going to go Duffy's way at all.
We then had Mick Terrell getting the KO win against Lorenzo Hunt and arm dislocation. And thank you, A, for telling us that what's his name?
The ghost of glory presented itself here.
Yeah, Evgeny had a snapped bicep. Apparently, Todd Duffy hurt his shoulder. And then Lorenzo Hunt gets knocked down by Mick Terrell. Is the second knockdown of the fight.
Yeah,
and
this is the peak.
And he dislocated his elbow, or his elbow got put out of socket. And
it got bent backwards. It's horrific.
I mean, what can you really say about this one? It was strange, to say the least.
Yeah, but again, the thing is with these BKFC cards and their fights that make you like not really question like, oh, if that have kept going, who would have won? Is because these guys are finished after like one knockdown.
Right.
After one stoppage, after one TKO, they're just done because it's bare knuckle, and so it's like ruining your body just with these knuckles. You're not protecting. Right. It's not just a power blow. Like they are connecting bone to bone. You're going to be out of there pretty quickly. And so he knocked down Lorenzo Hunt, and I doubt that if he'd have gotten up, he would have had a big comeback against Mick Terrell.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk of like steroids on the card. Like a lot of these injuries are due to steroids, which is possible. I'll say Lorenzo Hunt definitely looked huge for this match. And I've actually saw Lorenzo Hunt when I went to BKFC Salt Lake. I'm a pretty short dude. I'm like 5'6", and Lorenzo Hunt is not much taller than me. So I was questioning whether or not he'd have success up at heavyweight.
So you saw yourself in him, Skatesman?
No, I mean, he's definitely like a bigger dude than me, but like I was standing next to him actually getting some food, and I was like, yeah, this dude is not that big. So I thought it was strange that he was going up to heavyweight in the first place, but I mean, he looked totally jacked. And like, again, obviously he was like, he had a shirt on and shit when I saw him in the crowd at Salt Lake City, but I think he bulked up a lot just since that event. So,
well, it obviously didn't help him here.
Yeah.
I think when people who are a natural weight that's lower and they go up, they tend to be more slow and plotty. Like John Jones, like Alex Pereira. Like people don't want to say that Alex, like they want to say that Alex is just natural for this light heavyweight, but at middleweight, he's actually like faster. He's bigger. He's like, he just feels like he has more of a presence. Whereas like when it's light heavyweight, like I noticed his belly was just out when he was against Jan Blachowicz. So
yeah.
Probably these natural weights probably just an in-between like middleweight and light heavyweight, I think.
Yeah, I think middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight are obviously they're the weakest divisions in MMA, but I feel like you could potentially fight at either weight class.
That's why there have been so many successes between middleweight and light heavyweight of people moving down and up.
But anyway, we go on to our next fight, the main event of the evening. Mike Perry gets another KO win against Thiago Alves, and
I'm very proud of Mike Perry.
Yeah, I mean good for him.
Cut himself, he couldn't help but get a cut on his face.
Right. I mean, good win for him, and in a main event, and for my buddy Degenerate Dane, who was there, and I was supposed to be at this event myself. Paid $200 for this fight and didn't even go. So
yeah,
probably
worth it to get the refund and split.
I did not get a refund.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, well, but it's all good.
You enjoyed your money.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, it was more important to take care of my teeth than anything else. So
and remember, he's a poor prince from Nigeria, so he needs as many donations as he can get.
Who? Oh,
Mike Perry, the Nigerian prince.
Yeah, I guess.
Asking for your kind donations. So
yeah, Mike Perry didn't do himself a service by saying he was black and then saying the N-word to
for clarification.
To what's his name?
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley. Yeah, that was strange. But anyway, he gets a win. Thiago Alves folds. Does not able to take much punishment, which is not surprising because he's pretty washed at this point.
Yeah. I mean, good on Alves for at least cutting him at one point, but then again, everybody does.
Yeah.
Mike Perry's face is leather and not leather at the same time. It gets beaten up, but he just never goes down.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about how these cards play out, man, because I remember when Johnny Bedford was their champ, and Johnny Bedford was always in an exciting fight. Like always this guy, you could guarantee some action out of him. And it seems like BKFC is such a 50-50 proposition if the fight's going to be good or not. So when they hype up these matches and they have these featured fights, like,
you can't help but enjoy them with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, that's a good point, because like the top 3 matches all ended weird. You know, Mike Perry fighting Alves. I don't think we were expecting like a crazy fight.
I think people should be expecting Mike Perry fights to go weird at this point. It's happened in all 3 of his fights.
Well, no, I thought the Eddie Alvarez, and then I was there live, but I thought the Eddie Alvarez fight was really good. Like,
yeah, it was a great fight, but then it ended by doctor stoppage, even though Mike Perry was the one getting beaten up. Yeah,
Alvarez ended up not being able to continue. But again,
you realize that these guys get fragile because it's bare knuckle, and you're going to lose a tooth, or you're going to lose an orbital bone, or you're going to lose a cheekbone. So you're going to break.
But I think moving forward, it's like, take these BKFC bookings with a grain of salt.
Don't expect guys to get flatline KO'd in bare knuckle fights.
Right, like I said, though, I mean, it seems like in the lower weight classes, there's always a good title match. But see, then they got Palomino in there, and Palomino tends to play it safe and get the decision win.
Yeah.
So it's just so hard.
You trust those guys more than the guys who are like knockout artists.
Yeah.
At least Palomino's going to have a good decision. It'll be a long fight.
Yeah, totally. You'll get your money's worth. But yeah, it's just
going to knock him out, or it's just going to quit like in 1 minute. Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Or an injury. Yeah, it's weird. These BKFC matches are weird. It's always better when it's just like 2 dudes we don't even know that we're not expecting much. You know, for the highly
stack BKFC cards as much as possible, so that at least a few of them will deliver.
Yeah, sure. But again, it's not easy because there's not a lot of names, you know.
Yeah.
And they're doing better at getting them, but like they got Guillermo Rigondeaux now, and like that's not gonna.
Yeah. If they promise Darren Till a new ACL, he might come back. The titanium ACL.
Let's talk about that. Who do you want to see Mike Perry fight next?
I think it's very unlikely that he's going to get Till. I think we at one point had a conversation, I think it was me and Denial, that if Perry beats Alves, he could get a title shot at middleweight, I think is what he said, because he's like sort of a number 1 contender, like veteran guy, experienced guy at that weight class, and so it's a battle to see who's the best to contend for that title.
I think Lorenzo Hunt is the champion of that weight class.
I mean, it might take a while because he ripped up his elbow.
Right. I personally think it's better to have him, like, I thought they made up some belt for him, like
he's the king of violence.
Yeah, I thought they made up a belt for that. I guess I'm remembering wrong, but I think they should do that. I think they should just make up a belt, have him be, or maybe just give him the Police Gazette belt, you know, just to have him be a champion. But like, they should just make up the King of Violence belt and just give it to him and have him defend it next fight or something. But I personally would rather see
BMF belt. Make him the king of the promotion.
Yeah, I personally think that he should fight Jorge Masvidal next. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. After the boxing fight with Nate Diaz, he'd be down to do that.
I don't know if that'll happen, but that's what I want to see. Because I don't know who else they're going to get for him. Probably just some other washed UFC fighter that hasn't fought in a while.
Probably get him Pettis or something. Dude, they would give it to Pettis. That's actually a decent fight as well.
I think that Pettis is a little too small for Mike Perry, but yeah, I mean that's better than Till to me.
Yeah, sure.
Not on the promotional side, but in the actual like fight side. And I don't think Till shows up for that fight. I don't think he even signs up. For that fight.
But I also think that Perry's really trying to assert himself for what he's worth, which is like higher than what he is. And at one point, he might end up riding off into the sunset in his next couple fights.
Did you see how much he made?
What?
Did you see how much he made?
How much was it?
$600K.
That ain't bad,
dude. That's like better than UFC headliners. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So
crazy.
I mean, Bkfc knows that he's the main draw for pretty much all their cards. Not all of them, obviously. KNUCKLEMANIA has to come around every once in a while, but like he sells the fight for months, which keeps people watching the cards that come before his fights too. So he's like the ultimate promoter for the sport.
Yeah, he's the face of the sport.
Knuckle, they think Mike Perry, if he leaves that company, like might be in some trouble, is all I'll say.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they do with him next.
They need to bring in more stars and get people over. Former UFC guys, I would scout out UFC guys like constantly coming out of the UFC.
Yeah, maybe call up
some contracts to come in.
You know, they did get MVP to come over for that one fight, so maybe hit up Don Davis and see what he's able to do. Also, I think this is kind of a stretch, but maybe get somebody from Risen to come over. I mean, but that's hard because there's not. What's that?
They've done it before.
Well, I'm just saying, like, because of the higher weight, you know, and the bigger guys, that might be kind of tough. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do with Mike Perry next.
Yeah, but anything's possible. You never know. Again, you just keep weighing your options. Keep looking around. Right. I mean, the most important part of these promotions independently seems to be scouting older guys. Scouting veterans who are willing to get a good paycheck.
Do you want to see him go back to MMA? I personally don't.
I don't either, because I think he's going to lose all of his mystique.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you call up Don Davis and maybe give him IMPA.
Yeah. Or wow. That's a big one.
Yeah, like that would be sick.
Yeah. Or give him his opponent in the last one.
Eblin?
Yes, Eblin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think
they'd go back and forth. Eblin would be a piece of shit. And that would sort of promote the fight, in my opinion.
Who's their welterweight champ or season winner? Sadabusi?
No, I don't think so.
I guess it doesn't make sense, though, because they're in the middle of the season.
And then he left. It was Mercier, and he left. Yeah, Mercier's gone.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't make sense, though, because they're in the middle of the season right now.
Yeah.
Either way, he can wait.
You could get guys who like had their first loss. You have guys who had their first loss in the tournament. You can just leave if you want right now. But then that might create competition. There's just like a lot of different aspects to it. A lot of potential blunders. I'd try to get some of these women in the UFC divisions who aren't doing anything to come down and be in some women's BKFC fights.
We're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to do that BKFC draft. I mean, I guess we should do it another time when we're a little more prepared. But yeah, BKFC draft is interesting. I would like to see Holly Holm maybe come over to BKFC.
Or tell Juliana Pena, hey, you want to be a star? You want to have big matchups? Come down to BKFC. You obviously throw punches like a spaz. It's all you do. So why not do it here? We'll pay you more.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's it from me. Does anyone in the chat have anything they want to talk about? Or Hank, do you have anything? I don't know if we should preview the Risen card because I don't know much about it. I think go check out the We Are Risen podcast, Risen, if you want to get a down low on that fight, or Isha even has a good preview of that card as well up. So
I will give my pick for that card. My lock of the card is Chihiro Suzuki, the main event. I think he was able to KO a guy while on bottom in his last fight. So obviously he's got decent takedown defense if he can knock out a guy from off bottom. And Masanori is a guy who just beats guys to a decision, Marab style. And eventually he's going to run into a striker who's dynamic. and is going to stuff the takedowns and then beat his ass. So I feel like Suzuki's going to find a way to win. Any way he can, he will find his way to victory. And I believe, aren't there knees to grounded opponents and elbows? Yeah, he's going to win. He's going to win. There's too many options for him to win if he stuffs a takedown. So I got Suzuki by knockout. I think this kid's like a dynamo. And he
we'll go over that Hank the Tank lock in our next show. Yeah, ultimately, I think that's it for me, man. Unless anyone else has.
Can you imagine if we had Nate the Train in Bare Knuckle FC?
Yeah, no. Again, that's another good pick for our Bkfc draft. Maybe we'll have to come up with that for.
If Nate the Train loses another fight to get into the rankings, I'd snatch him up right away. And
yeah, but again, I'm not sure exactly how high Dana is on giving guys to Bkfc. I do know that Chad Mendez was under contract with the UFC when he did fight in Bkfc.
Well, think about this. Now they got Connor as the executive. We up Dana's ears a little bit. Like
we can talk about that. I mean, I don't think that really does anything for Bkfc personally.
No,
I think it does more for them than it does for Connor.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But I'm saying that if Connor's almost always been on Dana's good side in terms of you gave me money over the years, we're friends. And so if Connor asks, "Hey Dana, give me a favor, baby, 50 fighters. Give me 5 for 50 G's, baby." Dana will be like, "Isn't he awesome?" And give him some fighters. They might negotiate a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Jorge needs to fight in Bkfc. I think money.
That's what I want to see, but I mean, I don't think Connor would invest in or become a part owner in Bkfc if he didn't think it was profitable. One thing you can't say about Connor is that he's not, that he's a bad. Yeah, you can't say he's a bad businessman. And also, anything in combat sports that has Conor McGregor's name attached to it is good. But yeah, I don't really see what the appeal is to that. It made news, but it gives them more exposure.
Not the biggest Bkfc announcement ever. Their biggest announcement is getting Mike Perry, because he saved this. He basically made the sport what it is. So in hindsight, that's the biggest announcement.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how they book him next, and interested to see what Feldman does next. Hopefully, he doesn't jump off any bridges, but
he'll do something rash. I just know it. He's not.
I mean, and also, he looked rough, man. Like, I swear to God, this guy's hair was black just a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
and now it's like gray.
He looks like a Death Eater got to him.
Scariest part of being the Bkfc executive were the Dementors. The Dementors, they were flying all around. They sucked your soul out of the body and it hurt when Mike Perry sucked your soul out.
But yeah, anyway, I think that's it for me, man. What about you, Hank? You got anything else you want to say to the people?
I'd say look forward to the next week in boxing, because not only is Canelo going to be fighting, but the freaking monster Naoya Inoue returns, and he's up against Luis Neri, who has only had one loss, and all the rest of his wins have been by knockout. So Naoya Inoue continues to take on the best guys and continues to systematically destroy them. And
the best guys that he can. I think he's already pretty much cleaned out those lower weight classes.
Yeah, but it's fun to just be able to. It's a privilege to even just be able to see the monster again. Like I feel like he's at a point in his career where he could easily ride into the sunset if he wanted to, just like Mike Perry could. So be thankful for every chance you to see these guys before they go.
Yep.
I wish they were more retirements of guys who are on top. To be honest, like I know it sucks for fans to experience, but like I care about the fighters enough to be able to want them to make their money and actually enjoy it once they leave and not have CTE by the time they're done. So if Mike Perry, if a Nate the Train, if a Naoya Inoue has enough wins and is happy with themselves, be willing to retire. Be willing to pull a Khabib, is my opinion. It may be a controversial one, but I want these guys to make their money and actually get what they wanted to get out of the sport, especially if they entertain me and have done so for years,
Certainly.
You don't want to see him turn into a Volk or a Tony Ferguson.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see what those guys do in the future. And yeah, the next couple weeks in boxing is stacked. So
yeah,
definitely excited for that.
For those.
and we'll give you guys previews and picks on all those cards. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so we'll catch you on Thursday or Friday before
yeah,
next
100%.
week. All right,
guys. Well, that's it.
Chatting with you again, my man.
Yeah, you too, Hank. We're out of here, man. Everybody,
Peace.
y'all have a good week and have a good Sunday.
You survived the war zone once again. See you later, boys.
Later, boys.